I'll dispense with the comedy show, except that I do need a volunteer. How about you?
Volunteer what for, sir?
Tuesday I have to have a tooth pulled.
I got you beat. I got a crown going. No, sir, I'm out.
You want him to pull it?
No, I want him to go. I have to delay that. I've got a bad one. Blood thinners. So I have to delay going in. So I gotta,
My dentists are closed on Fridays. So
Mine is.
so
I can't help you
I
out.
won't be there either. Okay.
All
All right.
I've been in the Army, they never told me to volunteer for anything.
Okay.
You remember that?
Yeah. All right. I will call the Development Authority meeting for Friday, February 2015 to order, please. Joe, you start us on the right foot.
Father, we thank you for assembling our friends here from the community today. We thank you for your mercy and goodness. The scripture says it's new every morning, and we are grateful for that. We pray that you would be with our deliberations today as we make decisions for the well-being of all the citizens of this community. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, guests, all, thank you for being here. We are happy that you're here because it's a very important mission that we're on and that we want to discuss today, of course, as you well know, is the project called Foxhall. And things have changed along the way from time to time, and we want to bring you up to date as to exactly where this project stands, what it means to us, what it means to the taxpayers of the community, and what involvement each of us will have in the future in this project. And I think you're going to hear some pretty important things today. So again, I'm really glad that you guys are here, so you get the word firsthand. Okay. Welcome everyone else. Glad to have you. And any comments, any opening comment? Oh, Mayor, sorry. Glad you're here.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Chairman?
Glad to be here.
No, glad to be with you.
Thank you. Any board member, any opening comments? Now's your time.
I just wanted to mention, I sent y'all notes, but the South Metro Development Outlook was very heavily attended. Obviously, Chris was there and he might brief you, but there is huge movement all around the south side right now, from pretty much I-20 south. There's a lot of huge things going on with development, also redevelopment, and the shift in housing, all the indicators, the economists spoke, and you're going to see, because of the density that they already have, Alpharetta and up that corridor, everything seems to be migrating this way. And of course, I think Douglas County stands in line to be a prospective destination for a lot of new, exciting things.
Thank you for your wonderful note.
Yeah, those are taken on the iPhone. So.
Yeah, did the job.
Good, breathe, good.
Good job, great, thank you. All right, next, item 5, presentation of Go Bill Georgia.
Thank you. Go Bill Douglas, we developed a couple years ago a subcommittee through the chamber, basically mocking the Go Bill Georgia, where we've realized there's a skills gap in the STEM-related field, which is science, technology, engineering, math, and advanced manufacturing. And this year we've decided to give a scholarship, one per high school, to a student that is pursuing a career in a STEM-related field for $500. And basically, I'm here to ask that the Development Authority be a partner in that with us. And the applications are going out March the 1st. They're due back March 31st. We'll pick from there. We're going to give the scholarship at their honors night at their school. And basically, we're here to ask for a scholarship.
Chris, any comment?
Yeah, just to the board, as you all know, workforce, as we've talked about over the past couple of years now, is huge for us, huge for the continued success of the community when it comes to recruiting these high-quality projects to Douglas. I've had the opportunity to chair the workforce committee in general for the past couple of years. Now Breezy has taken that role on, and we wanted to emphasize the fact that we needed more private sector support to help pull this along. And so Stephen, along with Robbie Boyd from Big Hill Roofing, have taken on the leadership role to bring the private sector into the discussion with our students around Douglas County. And so the committee met about a month ago to start talking about how can we put more emphasis into the need that's present here for the STEM skills gap, and have come up with the idea to start issuing scholarships all throughout the Douglas County school system. And through Stephen's leadership, he's already pulled in at least six companies to support this effort. And for us, I think it'd be a worthy decision, for this board, because it's so important to exactly what it is that we do to support this effort that Stephen is leading.
And let me say this, April the 3rd, we're doing an industry tour. Teachers have a half day, so it's going to start at noon. We're going to start at the CCI, take them to a couple local businesses. We did it last year. We're very successful with the teachers and counselors. We're going to have them all day and take them around and show them the things that are here in Douglas County, and let them talk to a couple business leaders and realize that there is a demand in that field, that there is a gap and a shortage. And in the fall, we will be doing a parent and student day that will line up, that they go around with us. John Sell's daughter heads the STEM program at Turner Middle School, so we've also realized that in high school, we kind of either had their attention or their minds already made up. So this year, we're going to make an effort to back down and start trying to get them really in middle school and get their attention in middle school and bring them all the way through. So. Yes. Yeah.
How much?
$500.
So Steve, what particular career field would the scholarship be headed towards?
Anything
STEM
STEM
or anything?
related. Engineering, math,
So it is
advanced
STEM related.
manufacturing, a trade, a specific trade.
One from each high school?
One from each high school. We've got 5 high schools here, so it'll be one child from each. Then we have what we've called a gold scholarship this year. That is the star student of the camp.
Okay, any other questions? And if not, thank you, Stephen. What I'd like to do at this point is, because there's a short trigger on this thing, meaning that their program has to be in place March 1st. So, is there anybody else that has any questions? If not, then I'm going to bring it to them. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And I will add, we do have things like this budgeted, for the year. So it's not something on top of our current budget.
So, there's no other discussion on this point, that I'm going to ask for the vote. Lost my word.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I move that the authority appropriate $500 for this scholarship.
Second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no? Carried. So, Chris, if you'll see to that, please. All right, we're ready for Foxhall, and
Well, welcome everyone. I think we've never had a room this full for a board meeting. But glad you all are here, understanding everyone here is concerned about the progress of Douglas
Sorry.
County.
one other thing, I apologize. Elected Commissioner Adams, sorry I let you off. I apologize to you. I'm sorry. Thank you. Go ahead. I'll spank myself later.
As we've, over the past 3 years now, we've been working on this project, and we've all bought in that this is critical for the continued and future success of Douglas County. And to that point, even though, we were not able to get a move forward on the previous structure that we had, we went feverishly to working on a revised structure that we thought would be beneficial to all parties involved. Talking with the investment group, talking with the development group, looking at what are the reasons why we couldn't pass the prior vote, the prior structure, and how, mainly being the county-backed bonds. So we looked at how can we remove that element from this project and still meet all the needs of all the parties in order to make this project successful. And so we went into that mode to work towards that. And as I said, this is a project that we all feel is very critical to the future success of this community. So with that, hopefully you can see this here. This is ultimately what we define as the Foxhall project. Foxhall project is not the one hotel, the one conference center, the set of cottages, and amenities. The Foxhall project is the opening of opportunity for this southern portion of Douglas County, and as Nick said, connecting with the rest of the activity that is being planned between here, the airport, and all around the South Metro area. So this is the project. This is why we are pushing towards moving this on to the next phase of getting this first hotel, conference center, and all the other amenities built. So with that, the parameters of the project have been revised. We are now looking at a 200-room Westin Hotel. Westin Hotel is still interested in this project, still interested in putting forth a 20-year agreement on this hotel. We've increased the villas and cottages now to 125 villa lots with 250 rooms. The conference center at 50,000 square feet, spa at 20,000 square feet. The road and sewer infrastructure is still unchanged. That part is still unchanged. In all actuality, that infrastructure piece, the sewer infrastructure piece, is the critical component to make all the rest of this happen. That infrastructure is the key to the rest of this happening. So, as I said before, this revised structure removes the county guarantee from the project. That is, I guess, the most critical component of this revised structure, is that this does not fall on the backs of the taxpayers. The project in and of itself stands on its own 2 feet. If the project happens to fail, which we are highly, highly confident it will never fail, even if it does fail, it still in no way falls on the backs of the taxpayers of Douglas County. It stands on its own 2 feet. It falls on the back of the investors who've made the risk in investing in this project, and that's where that risk lies. We're looking at non-rated bonds that would be issued by the development authority based on the creditworthiness of the deal. And that's just how all the other deals that you see around this room function. It's based on the creditworthiness of those projects in and of themselves. Development authority then takes title to the project, and the project being defined as the new investments, being in the hotel, being in the conference center, being in the spa, and all the other amenities related to the new project. All existing investment remains as is, untouched. So then what we would need, and you'll see a diagram of this in the next slide, the commitment that we would need from the Douglas County Board of Commissioners is that there would be a rebate of the hotel motel taxes generated from the project. Just the hotel motel taxes generated from the project, not from Hilton Garden Inn or any other development that's existing in place. Those would not be a contribution to this project. Only the hotel motel taxes generated from the Westin Hotel, from the cottages, would be what would need to be rebated back to the project. Those proceeds, 4.5% of that hotel motel tax is used to pay back the bonds. The 3.5% of the hotel motel tax is used to offset operations for conference centers, conventions, and tourism. That 3.5% is defined by the state as it can only be used for those things, and that's what it would be used for.
Again, Chris, this is all generated from the hotel motel. I mean, from that development,
from that.
not any other hotel motel.
Nothing else outside of the borders of this project play into the project.
Hey, Chris, before you leave that slide, the bullet 4.5% to pay back the bonds, what do you see as the maturity of the bond? What will be the length? How many years?
That still is yet to be determined. That will be an effort that will come from the developer, and that they will have to go through in order to determine exactly what those bonds would be. They have an idea of what it may be, but we don't know for certain at this point in time.
But it would require then 8% for the maturity of those bonds.
Yes, for the maturity of those bonds, that's correct. So here's how the structure flows, and hopefully you all can see this. You've got the Westin Foxhall Resort at the center of the equation. You've got SSRC, Southern States Regional, who would be providing the bond proceeds to the project. And I'll introduce him now, but he'll come up and speak in a few minutes. But Bruce Nicely is here to also speak on behalf of SSRC in their involvement in the project. They would provide the proceeds to the Westin Foxhall. With those proceeds and the commitment from the Westin, you go to the bondholders, who then evaluate the project, analyze the project, see what the potential returns are, and then they issue then $35 million net proceeds to the development authority, which then flows into the project for infrastructure, and now we're allocating those funds to the villas and cottages. That goes into the project. The project itself, with the intergovernmental agreement from the Douglas County Board of Commissioners and the Development Authority, it sends hotel motel taxes and sales taxes to Douglas County. Douglas County then returns that 8% hotel motel tax back to the Development Authority. Then what you'll have is a 3.5%, which is used for conventions and tourism, basically goes to offset some of the operation of the conference center. With this, as I stated earlier, we'll take title to the project, and so therefore it will offset ad valorem taxes. So with the offset of the ad valorem taxes, the offset of the 3.5% towards conference center operations, now the Westin Foxhall Resort can make this differential in the bond payment. That differential in the bond payment plus the 4.5% from the hotel motel tax then flow back to the bondholders to cover that debt service. The Westin Foxhall, so what the county gains just out of the Westin Foxhall Resort LLC, they gain the sales taxes, and then the school system gains the sales taxes via East West. So those are the net gains from the project, are the sales taxes and East West for the local government.
I'm sorry. Do you have any numbers as far as sales taxes now, or is it still what it would
So based on the revisions of the project, the economic impact study should be in early next week. And then when we get that, we'll know exactly what those numbers are. I would say before, under the prior structure was like
It's several $1 million.
Okay. So we'll see what that is when it comes in next week. But the key component to that is it's all based on what comes in. It's not no one is tied to a fixed dollar amount. So the county is not being asked to issue exactly $1 million of hotel motel taxes back to the development authority. The county is being asked, it comes in this end, and then exactly what comes in goes here, and that's it. There's no makeup of a differential in there. So that's the overall structure of how things flow. And as I stated, the only fixed dollar amounts you see in there are the proceeds coming from SSRC and the bond proceeds. Everything else is percentages. It's what comes in, comes out. And that's basically how it flows.
And you were talking about, Chris, still the EB5 funding, is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So why the revision? The prior structure that we had with the county-backed bonds, had a lower interest rate. That structure also had additional proceeds, so the remaining part of the hotel motel tax actually was able to be retained by the county. The ad valorem property taxes was able to be retained by the school system. So those are the added benefits that came with that, along with the lower interest rate for the debt service. So with this revised structure, the costs now kick up on that. And with that, we don't know exactly, but expected it's probably going to be somewhere an additional $700,000 to $800,000 on the cost of those bonds as they were before. Per year. So that's the reason the restructure, the offset costs, is you have to now make a higher payment on that interest rate. Therefore, the reduction in the ad valorem and the offset of the marketing of the conference center. And then now we've switched the applying of the bonds. Instead of going to the conference center, those applying of the bonds are going to the cottages, which allows things to start quicker. Right now, the development is almost completely booked for the calendar year, but they're, from a wedding standpoint, but from their conference, their business standpoint, their in-the-week standpoint, they're missing out on business because they don't have the lodging to accommodate. And so this gives them the ability to gain more corporate events at the facility by going forward with the cottages quicker than prior. They would have been waiting another 2 years, before they were able to get those lodges in place, and now they can do that a lot faster.
Is it okay if I ask a question during the process? As far as the cottages go, would you want to build all of those before you start the hotel and conference center? How would that work?
They're gonna build about 75% of it, because the amount of time that it's gonna take to get the balance of the 80 million put together will take about 15 months. And this way, they get significant revenue to meet the current demand, which immediately starts generating the sales taxes and the East West taxes for the schools much sooner. And those numbers are significant for the county.
That in essence covers it. Key points: we've completely removed the risk from the Douglas County taxpayers. The Development Authority issues the bonds without any backing by Douglas County. Just like all the other projects, like I said, that we've done here, they are a pass-through through the Development Authority going to fund these operations. When those operations change hands, when those operations close down, all of that falls back on those entities there. And the same thing would happen if we were able to come to that point. And I know we always have to evaluate what's worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is that if it ever went under, in that scenario, the investment group who's putting all those funds into it, those are the ones who are taking the risk in the project, the only ones taking the risk. The project stands on its own 2 feet. Whatever the project generates, that's the rebate coming back to it. But the greater benefit in that is that once that project is up and running, it gives us now the ability to go market for this corporate park, market technology companies, market corporate regional headquarters. It gives us the ability to go recruit the necessary amenities that currently don't exist down there. So when you go back to your chat to the chairman in a couple of years, when people say, well, we've got grocery stores now, now we're bringing medical, down to this area. We're bringing the other amenities to this area that are sorely needed to help grow this place and grow this in a quality manner. And that's the emphasis, is that it's done in a quality manner. We're not saying overbuilding all of this land. We're preserving the land. As you see the way that this is laid out, it's intentionally laid out to show that we're not saying clear out all the trees. It's being laid out to say that we're preserving the beauty of this area. We're bringing in quality corporations, and that's what corporations are looking for. They're looking for a community that has a vision, has a plan, and so forth and so on. So that's our goal for this area. And by taking on this first catalytic project for a Foxhall, it allows us to do these things here. So
one thing I might mention is what's the area in acres, square foot, square miles that we're talking about here versus the area in, for example, District 4? I mean, how much land here are we talking about that would be developed as you see it?
So what you have, well, let's take total property boundaries. You've got roughly 1,200 acres of Foxhall. You've got roughly 700 to 800 acres for the corporate park. And you've got about maybe 100, for the retail area.
And that retail area is, we're talking about around the roundabout.
Around the roundabout, correct. And so the sewer infrastructure, would flow from here, be gravity fed down here over to St. Andrews, which I can't really identify on here, but to St. Andrews. That gravity fed is the most critical component to this. When we first started this project, the sewer infrastructure was all about serving this, and that was it. And by looking at that, we said, well, what's the true benefit of the county? If we're developing that, we're really only developing for the benefit of the development. And so by changing that discussion to how do we open up this corridor, now you bring more partners to the table to help offset the increased cost of the sewer infrastructure, and you bring more interest. Because, it's rooftops in cost, in cost of doing business. Our rooftops are not there at this current point in time. The infrastructure is not there at this current point in time as well. So those are the things that allow us to do this. But we're really talking about, I'll say, 2,000 acres of that entire area. I mean, that's all we're really talking about.
Which would be roughly 3 square miles. How many square miles in District 4? And you don't, off the top of your head, square miles in your district?
I have no idea.
It's a few. We'll say it's a few. But what I remember when we did some early work on the area, it's a very, very minor part of the entire area. And what you're seeing here is what we see. We're not seeing that entire district, that entire area down there will infill. It's not what we're after. We're after, and by the way, on the left side in the dark green area, those are Class A offices, not warehouses, not factories. We don't see in that part of the county that sort of growth. We see what we're after is, and Chris, you might talk a little bit more about it, but one of the assets that we have here in Douglas County is the airport. And I'm talking about Hartsfield, is that it attracts from around the world so much traffic that is looking to relocate. And so the advantage we have, we're only 22 miles from the airport, this area. And so we've already had interest expressed from world-class corporations about where do we go, where do we start looking to relocate our international offices. So that's the kind of development that we see. We don't see that, although we know it's going to happen, rooftops growing in the area, rooftops meaning houses, residents. But when that area develops to what we see over the next 10, 20, 30 years, the rooftops in the area will be different. And hopefully, the magic number is a residence that's valued at less than $250,000 doesn't pay its own way. So the rest of the county subsidizes those residents. And I think at this point our average home value is $145.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Right, and so that doesn't speak to the numbers that are under 145 or over 145. That's just the average. So what we're looking at, the long-term plan is how do we increase the value of a mill? And when we increase the value of a mill, we increase the cash available to the county and to the citizens of the county for better things. So I know the mayor uses the term live, work, and play. Well, that's a very good example of it right there. Is that, and so the area, a target is to increase the value of a mill. And as that happens in that area, it raises the value of everything within the county. So it's very complicated, but it isn't as big as what we might think in terms of the impact that it will have in the area. Because you're not talking about companies that are going to bring in 700 employees to locate there. You're talking about simply Class A offices that will bring in corporates with higher wages and things. So that's the picture that I want you to see there. Is, and we're looking over the next 10, 20, 30 years. Of course, I'll be looking down on that.
You hope.
Yeah.
Just call him Bob.
Call him as he sees it, don't Yeah. Thank you.
You know, with this, obviously, you know, there's a lot, like I said, a lot of confidence in this first leg of this project. And I thought it would be great for everyone to just kind of hear from Bruce, just kind of their perspective, you know, why they are, you know, still very interested in this project, and just some other things that you may want to share.
Sure.
with us here.
I know I've got a limited amount of time, so my name's Bruce Nicely. I'm the managing partner of Southern States Regional Center, and we're the company that has been looking and underwriting this deal now for 2 years and are going to provide $80 million plus in capital, at-risk capital, to make it work. I want to kind of present briefly just two sides of the coin for you. As you all know, the Development Authority's job is to stimulate economic growth to improve the lifestyles of everybody in the county. These kinds of transactions are done all over the country. It's not unusual. This is not a new model. Most recently, if you want to just check, you've heard of Mercedes-Benz coming here. You've obviously seen Porsche. Many of you may not have heard BMW's now talking about relocating their headquarters here. Kubota, Caterpillar, Kia, etc. All of these transactions are done under similar circumstances like what we're proposing here, and I absolutely understand the concerns of the taxpayers. We recognize that what it has to be to make a project work, especially one that has this kind of potential impact, is some sort of cooperation between government and the development entity and the lenders. So when you take a look at this on the positive side, what we see is the opportunity for the Development Authority to come in and support the bonds through the hotel motel tax. And what I want to highlight is there is no increase to the taxpayers of the county. You're not giving away something that you already have, because it's strictly those taxes generated by that facility. And what that does is that makes the bond work. So we've underwritten this transaction. We've done over $1 billion in deals. And this transaction's been vetted by more independent people than I could begin to imagine any other transaction has. Every one of them comes back. The high demand of this project, they're already showing, they've invested $40+ million in this project already. And the potential growth and impact to the surrounding area is nothing short of phenomenal. And we have another motivation for being involved. Our goal is to work on looking at how we can participate in the development of the entire corridor. Our goals, we've already met with ARC, we've met with Greta, Georgia Regional Transportation Authority. What I want you to kind of grasp is what you've actually got a hold of down here. There is no place in the United States that has the world's busiest airport, a corridor that's virtually virgin territory, and a high-end resort on the other end. So what's the goal to develop that corridor? The goal is to develop it into a technology research, medical research type environment. What does that do? That drives, to Ron's point, high wage jobs, higher, nicer homes, shopping, things of that nature. So our motivation is to, and the catalyst to this whole thing is Foxhall, quite frankly. That is the catalyst that gets the ball rolling. So the idea behind having the county not having any risk whatsoever, having that come through the Development Authority, makes the deal happen. If we're comfortable with it, the bond underwriters are going to be comfortable with it, and the project gets launched. So let's look at, that's the positive side of the coin. Let's look at the negative side of the coin. Let's say, God forbid, Foxhall burns to the ground. What happens to the county? What happens to the county taxpayers? Zero. There is absolutely zero risk to the county or to the taxpayers under the structure that's being proposed here. What do we do as a senior lender and the bondholders? We have to look to the property and the developer exclusively. There's absolutely no clawback to the county or the county taxpayers under this structure. So it's a win-win. The county gets a dramatic development that is going to launch the whole corridor development in a way that all of us want. The developer gets some cooperation, though he's spending a whole lot more money every year to service the debt, because it's now a non-rated bond versus a rated bond. But a non-rated bond basically means there's no credit backing it other than the development itself. So as a developer, as a lender, us coming in at an $80 million risk, we're taking the risk. The bondholders are taking some risk. Together, if it doesn't work, do you think we're going to walk away from $100+ million? No, we're going to get a team in there to make it work. But we don't see that with the Foxhall management team. They've proven it works. Their demand schedule, if you haven't seen it, their venues are book solid. They're losing corporate business because they don't have the ability to put people out there. That number's just going to go up. What's going to happen is you're going to get more sales taxes, you're going to get more school taxes, it's going to be better for the whole community, and that's going to launch the development of the rest of the corridor. Questions?
Bruce, there's a memorandum of understanding that's about to come out between the different municipalities along the Parkway.
Right.
The South Pole Parkway as it changes from Caps Ferry. And the general notion there obviously is, one thing, the pristine, the niceness of the Parkway. The front end of the Parkway from the airport side is more on the industrial side, but it stops there. And then from about Derrick Road on, there's some room for retail, and then it's residential all the way out until Chad Hills probably forms their city township or whatever they do there. That memorandum of understanding, we're trying to get that in place. There's 7 major landowners from the river there. You've got 45,000 acres between the airport, the world's busiest airport, and Douglas County that's ready to develop.
Right.
Our concern is we want quality development theirs too. So I just want people to know both sides of the river want quality development. And one thing that we would love to have happen is those 7 owners either sell to someone that can get master plan, because the key is planning ahead.
Right.
So that we don't have the stuff that people have in, say, Alpharetta, where they can't go to the grocery store.
It's a really good point. And that was part of the reason we met with ARC and Greta. And we've hired one of the world's largest architectural firms called Grimshaw. They were just here about a month and a half ago. And what we're looking to do is do a master overlay on the whole corridor and try to get the governor to sign off. And we've got the support of Greta and ARC and all the
ARC
communities.
is the one forming the MOA or leading the.
That's right. So the goal of that is to do what's called a master overlay district, which controls the quality and the level of development. Because what you don't want to happen is you don't want to get out here and all of a sudden you get small strip centers that have no major anchor, or you don't want to get into a situation where you have large, massive industrial plants that actually employ very few people. They're all automated, and you've got these massive, ugly buildings that go out there and they really don't do anything to drive taxes, they don't do anything to drive employment. What you want is you want to get research, technology, medical, things of that nature, and this whole campus across the street of Foxhall, which is the next phase, is just that. And many of you have heard it, it's the University of Universities concept. So we've already had conversations with Georgia State, with Emory, 2 international universities. People want to move down here to do master's research programs. You get the master's level research students coming in, the college is sharing the space. What is that going to do? You're going to drive the technology companies to want to be close to the airport, close to that research center. What is that going to do? That's going to drive higher paying jobs. What's that going to do? That's going to drive people that are looking for nicer neighborhoods. And you're going to create this catalyst of high quality growth through this whole overlay district. Instead of doing a rate the land, put a little subdivisions in that really aren't doing anything specifically to taxes. Most people don't realize that a county has to supplement the taxes if the house isn't over $250,000. In this kind of a growth plan, you'll see those houses north of $250,000.
Bruce, how many cities do you have between Foxhall and the airport?
You'd have to help me on that. There's
the-
Chat Hills
Yeah,
or Noonan. or-
There's Chat Hills, Palmetto almost touches the Parkway.
Right.
And then you got Union City, and then Fairburn's very close, within a few hundred yards. That's pretty much it.
Are all those cities online as far as maybe an overlay?
Yeah, we got Mayor Bodie, Tom Reed, and then, yeah, that's
Well,
what,
you got
those are the three main
South
mayors.
Fulton Development Authority.
You got Cedar, you got communities
cities.
like Cedar Grove, Cliftondale, those communities are on board as well.
So let me just leave you with this. The question I think you should be asking, and the question I've been told you're asking, is why should we do this? I think I would reframe that as to why wouldn't we do this? If you really understand the vision, go ask the communities that got Mercedes. Go ask the communities that got Porsche. Go ask the community that got Caterpillar. Go ask LaGrange about Kia. And look at the impact that these organizations made by cooperating with the development authorities, and look at the impact to the surrounding lifestyle of those communities.
Like Bosch put their sustainability showcase center in Serenbe instead of downtown New York.
That's right.
If you're gonna talk about geothermal heating and cooling where you're cutting energy costs, you don't wanna do that in downtown New York. You wanna do it in a setting that is more appropriate.
That's exactly
And
right.
that's why Serenbe is zoned the way it is today.
That's right. And these companies aren't moving here because of our temperate climate, right? They're moving here because there's cooperation between government and they're looking for a way to have an upscale, nice lifestyle for their employees. And we work together to do that, and it will absolutely change the face of Douglas County. Questions for me?
Are you allowed to ask questions?
Oh, something?
Yeah.
Please.
Well, and I'm not sure if one of you can answer it. In the chart, it was stated that the Development Authority takes title to the project.
They
Could you
do.
explain what that means?
This is called a revenue bond, and it's Douglas, the Development Authority, be it Douglas County or any other development authority, has what's called legislative authority to issue bonds. They're strictly just an issuing conduit. So under the statute, the way it's written, if the Development Authority issues the bond, they take title to the property. So they own it under the bond structure, but the servicing of the debt is relied upon on the revenues generated by the enterprise. There is no credit responsibility by the Development Authority or the county or any taxpayer. But it's just the way the structure has been written to help stimulate economic growth in Georgia. Did that answer your question? That's it?
So, Bruce, thank you, sir.
You bet. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And like I said, this was our opportunity to really just kind of make it known exactly what the project is, why we're doing it, and understanding that there are no risks for Douglas County government. So that's it.
So the next question, Chris, would be, so where are we today? And what's the next step so that everyone knows where we're headed with this thing? And how long is it going to take to see the lights on?
So today, we just got back the revised feasibility study for the restructure of the resized hotel and cottages, which came back highly successful. Well, next week, we'll get the economic impact study. Once we get all those, we'll be able to put some general numbers as to what the economic benefit would be to Douglas County considering the revised structure. From that standpoint, we would pursue an intergovernmental agreement to be approved by the Board of Commissioners. With that intergovernmental agreement approved and our development authority inducement, which we've already done, we would then bring those together to allow the Foxhall to go forward, garner the necessary bond proceeds in order to fund the project take title to it, issue the bonds, so forth and so on. And then SSRC starts raising its funds from the EB5, and then permits, architectural designs are done, permits are drawn, and construction begins. From a timing standpoint, I'm not
I
certain.
think realistically, Ron, the bond underwriting process will take another, assuming everybody agrees to the terms and conditions, it would take another 45 days. And the bonds would probably be able to be placed within 60 days after that. While that's going on, virtually all the design is done on the cottage and the lodge. So, and there's a land disturbance permit. So I'm sure Harrison would probably go ahead and start groundbreaking, to where realistically, I think in 150 to 180 days, the county would start realizing revenue.
Chris, the economic impact study you're looking for next week, will that include the sales tax revenue
Yes.
estimated that will flow to the county and to the school, as well as an estimate of the hotel motel tax?
Yes,
That
it'll have all that in there. Yes, sir.
Chris, may I ask a question?
Yes, sir. Always defer to the chairman, sir.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
The win that I keep hearing, and a few minutes ago, we talked about the value that's gonna increase in the area down there. Was gonna increase the millage rate, if I understood right. To me, that's looking at a tax increase. The current property owners down there that have properties that are 200,000 and under, what's that gonna do for our taxes?
Yeah, let me help you.
Thank you.
Yeah, because very important point. Nobody wants to hear anything about your taxes going up, and particularly me, I pay enough.
I do too.
And so, I didn't say that your millage rate was going to go up. What I said was the value of a mill will go up. Meaning that, let's just talk in simple terms, that let's say you're assessed at 1 mill. And if your house is valued at $100,000, you're gonna get 1 mill of $100,000. If your house is valued at 200, then you're gonna get the value of 1 mill. So the tax didn't go up, the millage rate didn't go up. But if these homes that are built there are $500,000 homes, and mine is 200,000, we're both gonna pay 1 mill, but I'm gonna pay less than that one is because of the simple value. So the millage rate will not be affected at all. So what your house is valued at today, what the millage rate is today, if the value of your house doesn't change, your millage rate is not gonna change. So everything is the same. But we're looking at, as these projects develop and bigger and better things come there, they're going to be more valuable. So even at the same millage rate, you're gonna generate more cash.
But also the value of your property is going to go up correspondingly. So you're gonna make it up in value of the increased value of your property by way more than any increase in.
How does increasing my property value help me as a taxpayer? I'm I don't plan to settle. My widow may settle. But we're on the edge of that dark green. And I mean, property pins are the same point. I can't see any way that it's not gonna increase my property value over the long haul.
Right.
And that's gonna increase my property tax. There's a lot of infrastructure that's gotta go on there. We're talking about a gravity-fed sewer system.
Gravity and pump, I guess.
Right, it's gonna be and pump, right. I've walked a lot of that land, there's gonna be several pumps. But where's that funding come from? Is that a part of this project?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Totally.
yes, and the project pays for it. They can't live without it, so as part of the deal, we have to build this, but they're gonna have to pay for it. We're not gonna pay for it.
The road improvements that'll have to be done, like the intersection there at Caps Ferry and 166, this project will also pay for that? and
No.
similar stuff?
No, not Caps Dairy and 166, that's not on the plan. The Caps Dairy,
I think what, I think
Go
what
ahead.
you're saying. So when it comes to what we're talking about for this project is it's an enabler to the further development. So the infrastructure comes in and it enables this to be developed, but it's not saying that it's requiring the county to go further, put further dollars to develop this. What it is now is the gravity fed enables another developer to come in who now has access to sewer, whereas right now they don't. And so now we're putting the base infrastructure in that allows for future development. We're not saying we're putting this infrastructure in and we're going to go put this infrastructure in or so forth and so on. You know, as development grows and things, you know, need to develop in the quality right way, you know, the development community comes back in for private sector dollars because now they see more value in putting their dollars here. And with that, just how all other developments have been done, they have their involvement in what that those development costs are. But we're not saying that we're committing the county to now have to go improve that intersection now. Now, as demand grows and the values increase, maybe that may happen. Who knows? But part of our plan right now is to say, now county, go invest another 20 million taxpayer dollars to do this. That's not what we're saying.
We're not saying that now, but do you think it'll be a future thing that'll have to be?
Well, there's going to be infrastructure improvements all over the county for decades. We're all talking about transportation. We're all talking about the needs that we have to, you know, enhance the community. So investments in our community are going to always happen. You know, right now we recently just increased, you know, transportation funding from a local standpoint to resurface roads and things like that. So those are going to be necessary things that governments do to help the quality of life of an overall community. So that's always going to happen.
Chris, you talked about the sewer was gonna be gravity fed. It's taking it from, and the pumps from Foxhall over, you said, to St. Andrews, which is on Highway 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Or just, well, you know, shortly off of Highway 5. How are you gonna get over there? You gonna cut through everybody's property to get there?
We've done about four different designs that WSA has reviewed, and one of those designs, and I don't know all the details of where it goes, but in some way it kind of pumps up here, feeds down through this property, through that trough that goes through there, and it cuts across. Where exactly, I'm not exactly certain, but yeah, it will have to cut through there.
Do they have some design you can look at?
Once they have an approved final design, it's all in conceptual right now. So you know, nothing's been finalized. Until we finalize this, none of that's going to be finalized.
hold on, Commissioner, you had.
Okay. I didn't know we were gonna be allowed.
Well, I changed my other mind.
Good,
This is
okay.
such a great crowd and we've got good information out here. But I still have my gun in my pocket.
Okay, I'll keep it short.
So do we.
It requires title for the conference center, the spa, and the cottages. What about the golf course? Is that part of the Westin and the hotel?
Yeah, everything that's a part of the project part of the new project, we'd have title to.
So it would include the, now what about all the home sites up there?
No.
No, that's not part of the
That is
project.
not
No.
part of this at all, okay. Eddie asked you about the infrastructure, and that's included in the pricing, I guess. Number of years that the property is gonna be exempt. Is it gonna be a tiered, where they pay 10% one year and 20% the next year, like most abatements are? Or is it just blanket tax exempt for so many years?
The plan is for the new project in and of itself to be exempt from property taxes in order to make up that differential.
Do you have any idea how many years? Are you talking about 10, 20, 30?
I would say the worst case scenario is that the duration of the bonds. So the bonds will probably be termed, let's say maybe the 30-year bond. And so that project, would be exempt for the duration of the bond.
Yep.
But the likelihood is that the bond won't last that long, but it may be termed in that way, such that, just how we had it before, it's termed that way such that you've got a lot of excess, in what you're bringing in versus the debt service on the bond. But we don't know that for certain right now.
Okay, and this is just phase one, this is just the light green area? It does not include the corporate proposed,
That's, yeah, we have,
corporate park?
that's correct. The darker shade, we don't have any investment there except that the sewer will pass through there. But the sewer, remember, is paid for through the project on the right, through what you know as Foxhall. So everything in the dark green is future development by another developer and has nothing to do with this bond or anything to do with this tax structure. That's all new and tax-paying development. That's part of what we're after.
And is WSA gonna invest in this also?
Yes, they're on board.
They're on board, they're gonna put some of the upfront money for the sewage and the pumping stations and whatever.
Right, what we talked with them about is looking at the overall plan for Douglas County. One of the tasks that we have from the board, from the chairman, and from you as well, is that what do we want this place to look like 10, 15, 20 years from now from an economic standpoint, from a developmental standpoint? Well, so we meet with agencies like the WSA, and they tell us what their resource level is. They tell us what they see and what they can do and how they help to spur development. So we're in agreement that this, the WSA is in agreement with us, that this development is the one they want to pursue.
Okay, and it's possible that other abatements would be brought forward for the corporate park and the other development up there at the roundabout?
Depends on what it is. It's always, everything is possible, just depends on the project. Each project has got to stand on its own 2 feet. So if a developer that wants to develop that corporate park in its entirety wants to talk about other abatements or incentives, we'll talk with them about it. But whether or not that happens, whether or not that any abatements or any incentives are granted, that's a whole different matter. We've turned down as many as we've granted. So it's got to stand on its own 2 feet. It's got to meet the standards that we set for development and employment. If it doesn't, it's out.
One last question, the 85 financing, I know that's only good for 5 to 7 years. You have to get new developers or new financing people to come in after those 5 or 7 years?
We don't have to, it's desired. We have the option of converting to equity in the project if we elect to. So truthfully, it would be an evaluation 5 to 7 years in the future as to the determination, do we want them to seek refinancing or would we like to convert our debt to equity? So we have that, we have both options. And once you have a stabilized property like this, there's a number of sources that would be all over this, from a REITs to institutional investors, insurance companies, et cetera. We don't see any issue refinancing. The choice would be whether we want to stay in as an equity partner, and that's highly likely, quite frankly.
Okay. And one other question I forgot. And you said if it failed, if everything just failed,
Right.
that you would come back on the property. But the property is going to be in the development authority's name. Are you going to take it away from them?
No. What happens is, in order for a transaction like this to happen in a bond environment, there has to be what's called a qualified management agreement. So we would just take over the qualified management agreement, the development authority would maintain title, and we would run it under that qualified management agreement. So that's how it works. We're actually subordinated to providing title to the development authority.
We, as part of the agreement, as part of our strategy, there isn't a way that you could get us to go into the resort business, the development authority. We have no clue. It's not our thing, it's not our interest. So therefore, within this agreement, we have this kind of protection that the people that are in that business are committed to us. That they can't get off the hook. And we certainly are not going to take the keys to anything.
One last comment, you should look at, if you haven't seen it yet, their venue bookings. I mean, they had last year 75,000 people go through Foxhall. Last year, I think they did 136 weddings, they already have 152, I believe is the number now booked. They have numerous corporate events. Those numbers are gonna skyrocket, and with lodging on site. And that's gonna just drive so much more sales tax that it's just gonna, again, I hate to beat a horse here, but it's gonna change the picture for Douglas County.
Okay, in the interest of time, we're going to bring this phase to a close. And I appreciate you folks taking the time. I hope that we've helped, and Mr. Daniel, we can talk more and more so that you get a good, clear understanding of it. Because I understand, you know, like I said, I pay this city enough taxes.
And we appreciate it.
I know you do. And so, thank you very much. I appreciate that. We're gonna, with this, we're gonna move on to some other things. You're welcome to stay and sit out with us. Some of it might be just a tad boring, but we're gonna go on. So thank you, Bruce. I appreciate you coming, sir. And I can tell you, based on what I know about Bruce, he's available for any questions, so if anyone has any questions, just get them through Chris, and Chris will get the answers for you. Okay. All right, let's move on to administrative matters, approval of the minutes of the meeting of January 16, 2015. I trust that everyone's had a chance to read the minutes. Are there any corrections, any additions, deletions, changes there too?
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Carried. We're going to move the approval of the financial statement until the March meeting, since Mr. Miller is not here to help us with that. So with that, we'll go on with the next effort, which is the election of officers.
Mr. Chair, I move that we elect the existing officers as we have, with the exception of Ronnie Camp, to be nominated as assistant secretary in the place of Bob Camp.
Second. Any other nominations? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Carried. You have the job of informing Mr. Camp. He's been roped into a job.
No, over Ronnie Camp, that is.
Yeah, okay. All right, Chris, if you want to go forward with your record report, please.
I won't spend a whole lot of time. I know we're behind schedule here, but as you see there, we've got some active new projects that are still ongoing and increasing since our last meeting, and 2 new project inquiries that we received this past week. So activity has definitely increased this going into this year. We're working very diligently, trying to keep it all moving in the same positive direction. So just excited about the opportunities that lay ahead of us. I'll move down to the next topic of engineering services. What we talked about at our retreat from 2 years ago, we looked at identifying where are the other opportunities for growth and development. We had set aside in our budget to proceed on bringing on some engineering services, but it was going to be primarily to focus on one property. And so we did not move forward on that last year, but we scaled that back, approved it in our budget for this year, to more start focusing on just looking at all the opportunities as a whole and seeing which ones really have some benefit. And then there's some projects that we come across where we need some support from an engineering standpoint. So we approved that in our budget this year. We're working on an agreement right now with Hughes Ray to come on as our kind of engineer on retainer for the year, and hopefully continue that relationship moving forward. And as you see there, like I said, it's identifying potential properties for development, types of development that can take place, and then services on special projects, which we have at least one or two going on right now. Any questions there? So moving on, we had as I mentioned at our last meeting, we were platinum sponsors for the South Metro Development Outlook, and that conference was this past Wednesday, and so I think it was a really good, highly attended event. And Breezy, you just want to take a minute and just kind of talk about our effort for that?
Sure. As platinum sponsor, we were able to have a table in the foyer area with the other sponsors. With that, we were able to give information about the film office, because one of the topics of the day was the film industry in the metro Atlanta area. So we had the opportunity to meet with film studios and talk to them about the opportunities we have in Douglas County for filming, and then our available properties. A lot of the people that come to those are corporations looking to expand or to relocate in the South Metro area. In Douglas County, we bump up against that South Metro, so we are a hot commodity for them. So we were able to speak to some of the key decision makers about what we have in Douglas County, our different corridors, the various corporations that already call Douglas County home. And since then, over the past 48 hours, I know Chris and I both have received correspondence from those wanting to set up meetings. So it was highly beneficial for us, and the return on investment has already come through. So there we go. And Chris was a panelist, so that was good.
Thank you, Brucey. So on to our next topic. As you all know very near and dearly, we have made strides to increase our cooperation with the City Development Authority in economic development. Last year, they brought on Ms. Joan Young to help them in evaluating the City Development Authority, evaluating the economic development future for the city of Douglasville, and furthering that spirit of collaboration between the two development authorities. So we've been, in talks, amongst ourselves about, how can we improve the relationship, make it more effective for the community as a whole. And so to that point, we're looking at working towards an agreement of basically contracting for economic development services, being this development authority on behalf of the City Development Authority. Like I said, furthering that spirit of cooperation. So the City Development Authority received a presentation at their last meeting at committee level. City Council did as well. And so just bringing that forward today, just to say that those discussions are ongoing. The MOU that we've had over the past couple of years is coming to an end. And so now this is just another step from that to increase that partnership, to make a more solid foundation, and give us a better life when it comes to other partners from outside of Douglas County, looking at our community when it comes to bringing high quality projects to Douglas County. So just want to let you know that we are talking about that. Once we're able to come to a full agreement, we'll bring that back to this board to deliberate and approve. So I just want to let you know that that was ongoing. So any questions there? All right. And we'll finish off. Wasn't I missing anything? Good. For administrative matters, we'll be starting interviews on Monday to bring on an intern. That intern will be responsible for going through our very full file cabinet of projects that we've worked on over the past, let's say, 10 years or so, and they'll start inputting all of that data into our management tool, being Salesforce, so that we can better track our performances over the years and keep up to date on what's happening. So we put that out through Metro Chamber's iNav system, through our own website. We've got quite a few resumes that were submitted, and narrowed that down to a small handful to have that individual come on over the next month or so and work probably through into the summer. updating all of our records for that. And then lastly, as I mentioned last time, when we did our budget, we were looking at ways to reduce health insurance, and we were able to kind of save about $3,000 on our annual costs. So that was, that felt really good to be able to do that. And we're remaining with our same provider, and helps on our budget a little bit better. That is,
Sure, those sectors we can keep us.
oh yeah, I got it.
You started working out.
I don't know if I do that, we use these healthcare issues.
But if there's no further questions, I know we do need to go into executive session.